Hi, my name is Shawn Shaler. That is my host, Chris Ford, aka the Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter fame. And this above me is Theo Brown, who is, for the second consecutive week, unless you're one of the two people watching live on Twitch, thank you to Twitch people, that is Theo Brown, and he is back for part two of an episode where we had a ton of fun and also talked for a really long time. So we decided to cut it in half, but that's fantastic that we get to have Theo Brown back for essentially for another week of podcasting episodes. So thanks, Theo, for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
This time we'll pretty much jump straight into the episode, which is And the Winner Is, and it's episode 6 of Legend of Korra Season 1. But before we do that, Chris, how are you doing? I asked Theo last week. I never asked you. I'm sorry, that's my bad.
I'm doing great. I've been recently spending a lot of random money on statues. I got like 3 on the way. That's not that important. Also, I've been spending a lot of money on t-shirts. Yeah, a new t-shirt, this Kyoshi shirt here. It says "Only Justice Will Bring Peace," which is very relevant to today. That only justice will bring peace. So hopefully, we get more justice.
That is a stellar shirt. I'm glad you.
Where did you get that shirt? I want it.
Just off of Amazon. I can send you the exact one. There's a couple different ones. I can send you the exact thing. Because it's sized pretty right and everything. So
okay,
put it in the group chat because I may also need one pretty badly.
Yes, that's pretty awesome.
And then week's going pretty good. I finally made a video, which was probably out 2 weeks ago by this point. So it's the cautionary tale of Avatar Korra. I highly implore anyone to watch it. It's probably one of my most personal videos. I'm pretty sure I cried writing it, honestly. Because I mentioned a good friend of mine who passed away, who just kind of related to Korra's story. So let's bring up the mood. Also, hopefully by the time this is recording, the Lakers have won, I think, their 17th NBA championship.
Probably won it in 5, probably.
So, so hopefully I'm celebrating. Yeah, hopefully, they just won 4. Because I don't like. I just want them to win every single game. I don't care about competition. People not liking the finals. People think whatever. Lakers win. That's all I want.
I appreciate your dedication to the game, but I can't see the Heat not sneaking one out. I can't see it. They're too much. They're gonna get one.
Yeah.
Chris, the correct video too transitions really nicely into our video last week where we did avatars as NBA legends, and when I say we, I mean you two. And it comped really well in there, and we had a really nice talk about Korra. So if you skip that episode because you're like, you know what, I'm really not that into the NBA, you know what, maybe go back and listen just to hear us talk a little more about the avatars. I think it's probably worth your time for that. And we had a great time, so I think it's going to do well. So good correct talk in the last episode. Before we jump into our talk here, provided Chris doesn't get upset that I'm going to do this like every other week for the foreseeable future, as I got to plug my fundraiser. I'm having a fundraiser on November the 14th. And it's all the money is going to Harvesters, the community food network, and they help feed hungry families. That's very important to me. That's here in Kansas City. So I've got 6 or 7 raffle prizes. Some are really cool, some are kind of, but I'm working on it. And I will make sure to share the Facebook public event so that you can go buy these raffle tickets, contribute to the cause, win some nerdy prizes. So something that's very important to me. I'm very excited about it. And I'm done with my spiel for another week or so.
All right, you guys keep talking. I'll be right back. I forgot that I didn't grab the baby monitor, so my child could be crying his head off right now. I'm like, man, I haven't heard anything. I was thinking to myself, like, there's something else I was supposed to be looking out right now. So, but you guys keep talking.
I'm not going to say that Chris forgot his child, but
wow,
no, I'm just kidding.
Good job, Chris.
Well, hey,
I'll be right back.
That's okay. We're going to jump into the episode, and we'll make sure that Chris catches up. But Theo, as you mentioned previously, maybe last week, quote unquote, technically, that this episode is kind of a tale of two halves. Would you be interested in stepping through what happens in the first half of this episode?
Yeah,
it won't take Chris that long to get back.
So yeah, this episode, we're starting off with Bolin and Korra and Mako training, getting ready for the finals of the pro bending match against what's the name of the team they're playing against?
The Bats.
Wolf Bats. Wolf Bats. Yeah.
I don't know. That sounds like a name that's trying way too hard.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I have in my notes the wolf bats remind me. I don't know why, but it reminds me of Twilight, like the pale skin
Yeah.
and like the weird. I don't know why. It makes me think of Twilight vampires for some reason.
Because you're thinking
Pretty
about Batman.
applicable.
That's why. Because you're thinking
Yeah.
about Robert Pattinson.
Yes.
Always. Me too. It's okay.
Yeah. So so we start off with that training little opening scene, and yeah, that kind of I one thing that stood out to me about that particular scene just right away out the gate was how like intense Korra was. Like she just really wants to win this thing, you know. Um, and for me, like the first third of this episode is kind of blah. It's just personally. I don't know what your thoughts on it are, but yeah, I like the opening to it, but it's a little, you know, I don't know. Couldn't tell the
Yeah.
direction of that episode.
I kind of like that the Team Avatar is finally all on the same page. Like before, there was a lot of like I don't know love drama and stuff that they're all. Maybe I just didn't love the previous episode. That this is a kind of refreshing seeing them all being like, "All right, we're playing our best work right here. We're all doing great, and we're gonna go into the championship and we're gonna beat them."
I think
So that was kind of refreshing.
I think you're absolutely right, because like at first she was the new person, she was a sub. Second, there was the love triangle, and now it's like, no, this is Pinnacle, Fire Ferret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have that scene directly after they do their little training thing, and Amon kind of hijacks the radio for a little bit, and afterwards, Korra's like, all right, we have to go to City Hall. So we have that scene in the City Hall spot where Tenzin and the other council members are talking about Amon, and basically the council members are talking about not having the pro bending match happen. And one thing I took note about that scene was that Tarlok is about to like hit the hammer or the whatever those what is it called?
Gavel?
Gavel.
The gavel. Yes, he's about to do the gavel, and like yeah, like officially like hey, we're not going to have the pro bending match, and then in swings in Lin Beifong's metal thing, her metal tentacle, and it smashes the gavel. And my first thought was, does the chief of police have the authority to do that? Like, that didn't really add up to me from like a hierarchy structural thing. For
Probably not, but
I'll
Lin
allow
Beifong
it.
does.
True. I would be afraid of.
But
Lin
watch
Beifong.
yourself, McCoy.
Watch yourself, Nicole. She didn't just grab it either. She snapped it. Like, there's
Yeah,
no
she
way that
snapped it.
meeting can end now because the gavel's gone. Way
That's
to go,
true.
Lynn.
That's true.
Yeah, which I do think it was interesting. I feel like, sorry, I just now turned on. My son told me he was waking up, so I turned on the the lullaby, get him to go back to sleep. It's like a
You
like a
turned
nice
that
little
on from the
thing.
other side? That's kind of handy.
Yeah, no, all right.
Wow, baby monitors have come a long way.
They have. Anyway, I like that scene because I feel like Tarlok is using. He's like, oh, you're going to guarantee that things will go right. Like the first time watching Legend of Korra, you knew Tarlok was shady, but you didn't know how he was shady. Like you might even thought that he might have been Amon. He's just like working things. Like there was a couple different theories about Tarlok. You just knew he wasn't all there. And so I found this to be pretty interesting for Tarlok. Tarlok is manipulating Lin into doing this because he knows like, all right, it's a win-win, right? If she defeats Amon, boom, she kidnapped Amon. I can say that I approved the chief Beifong to go out and address these people. And if she loses to Amon, then I can now insert my own person in there and I can rule that way. So you can see him those I don't know, you can see the gears turning in his head, and you kind of see him playing that.
But Lynn still gets what she wants, so in a way, everybody does kind of win. Like,
Yeah,
it's still a
everybody
good
wins.
idea from Lynn, so everybody kind of wins.
Yeah, everybody wins. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add there.
You didn't miss much either. We introduced the episode through that scene, and then they decide, I suppose at this point, they decide, all right, let's go ahead and a lot of people change their votes to say let's have these finals.
Yeah.
And
Which one
then
thing those people are
Tenzin
kind
goes
of
and offers to help.
spineless because they just went along with whatever Tarlac said, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah, they didn't have any personalities. They were like side characters in a slasher flick or something. Like those people,
Right.
they're nothing.
Yeah.
There's that scene directly after the meeting, and Tarloc's like, "Cool, all the stress is off my shoulders. Just Lin Beifong, you're gonna fail. So my task force doesn't have to fail. So, so Tenzin is talking to Lin in the hallway, and it's the scene where basically Korra discovers that the two of them used to date. I just think that scene is pretty hilarious. But there's something that there's something that Lynn said. She said that the chi blockers couldn't like do their thing through the police metal garb. I was just wondering, like, could there be a chi blocker that's powerful enough to, I don't know. I don't know if I'm making this up, or like, get through armor of some sort. I don't know.
I mean, their domes are still exposed. Like, come on, Lynn.
Okay, yeah. Right. She's like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
That was kind of one of the reasons and we had a long conversation with Chandler from the Arrow podcast when we did our non-bending competition, and we're like, well, sure, Ty Lee can chi block, but Suki, she might be like Kyoshi, that she has chainmail underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not sure how well she would do. I mean, how well chi blockers would do against that metal.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a serious martial artist could maybe take a good crack at it, but
right,
we'll never know.
And then I also had written down here that like directly after that, there's like a short scene where Amon's sidekick comes up to Amon and is like, "Hey, the council took the bait; they're going forward with it." And Amon's like, "Everything's going to plan."
Yeah.
But my thought was, how did that sidekick get that information, or was that like a public announcement, or did?
It's probably a public announcement.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably some time went by.
Okay.
I had to guess.
Yeah, because my initial thought was that maybe Tarlac leaked that to someone, but
that lack of clarity could contribute to those theories that Chris was talking about, right? Like that, it's not extremely clear, so and that could be like creator intentional, just to keep our brains moving, or maybe not. I am.
Yeah.
I'm not creative at all. I don't know what kind of process they go through.
Going back real quick to that scene with Korra putting two and two together. I like when Tenzin was like, me and Lin used to date, but we grew apart. We wanted different things. And the camera is just like panning in on him, and the music is like way more like sincere.
It caught me so off guard.
And he's like getting really thoughtful about like, well, we wanted different things. And he's like, wait, why am I telling you this? Like, I don't know. I just cracked up with that.
It caught me really off guard. I didn't remember that coming at all. And I was like, that's some Sean Taylor meta humor right there. I love it. With the music playing to it and everything.
Oh, and then of course it's like, I'm surprised she didn't have Pim arrested. And Tenzin's like, oh, she tried.
She tried.
I think this is just some great voice work done by J.K. Simmons.
Yeah,
not J.K.
It's funny that scene reminds me of me talking to, like, when I'm in high school, talking to a teacher who's in their 30s, and like for all of us, we're in our like early 30s, right? So I think to myself now, I still act and talk and think like I'm 18 sometimes. And so I'm wondering in my head, like, I just think it's kind of funny how Tenzin is like doing this reminiscing, and you're kind of seeing him be this, like, going back to that, but like how much childish interplay between Tenzin and Lin is happening, and Korra's looking up to these figures, these adults, Yeah, it's just funny.
That's us. We're the adults now. Chris has babies.
I know.
Yeah, that's crazy. I have a cat.
I got a dog. Yeah. So this is totally tangential, but I hope you get a chuckle out of it at least. Is that when I saw that scene, the first thing I thought of was that so my first like grade school girlfriend, like I don't even know if you count as girlfriend, but we call ourselves that in grade school. So I had a best friend in grade school, and then I switched and went to a different high school and had a different best friend. Me and my best friend in grade school both quote unquote like dated this girl. And then, like, way later, she ended up marrying my best friend from high school that they had never even met each other. And now we play D&D on Sundays because we're huge nerds, all four of us, my wife included. And then my wife likes to bring that up sometimes. She's like, you like playing D&D with your old girlfriend?
Wow.
And I can't tell if she's serious and thinks, or if she thinks it's funny.
There's some seriousness in there, I'm sure.
I don't think there is, but TBD. But anyway, we skip ahead at this point right after this scene. Pretty much gets to the match, or they
pretty much
jumping
gets
into
to the
their walk-ups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say right before the game, right before the match starts, Lynn and Tenzin have a good moment together again. They're like, "Hey, Lynn, I know we've had our things, but we should do this together." And then she's like the old times, and he's like, "Yeah, like the old time." So they have a pretty good, sincere moment there.
Yeah,
I do like the walk-ups. I like that Pabo gets to do his little trick, and that's their whole walk-up. And then that the other douchebags, I forget their names, have the whole fireworks like WWF thing going on.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they pretty much get to the match, and in the match, and the Wolfbats are cheating. Which one thing I love this episode, one thing is I think it provides a lot of context for like rules and stuff when it comes to pro bending without just completely regurgitating it to you in the form of a. Dang it, I can't think of the word.
It's not like exposition; it's done kind of organically. Is that what you're getting?
Exactly. Yep. Like you see it done, right? Like there's a hosing foul you can call when you're water bending too much, or you can't put ice. You can't use ice in there or it'll slip, or firebenders can't use headshots and stuff like that. So I enjoyed that aspect of the fights.
I enjoyed that aspect of the fights, but I hate that aspect of pro bending. What a horrible set of rules. So
what, you would prefer hosing and icing to take place?
You know what? Why not? Just go all out with it. No. I'm just in this camp where I'm against.
It's probably how it was before. You know how like UFC used to be like no rules. It didn't matter. Like you could hit people like in the balls and you could bite them. There was absolutely no rules at first. And then they're like, hey, if we want people to take it serious, like we gotta have some rules.
We're gonna have to establish something. I haven't so I don't like pro bending, but I admit that I'm like part of the problem because I haven't thought of a better sport yet. I'm still working on it. Everything I've come up with so far is too like one type of bender specific, and that's problematic. Right. So I'm working on it. Give me time.
So there's like two things with like the pro bending issue. Like one, I never really understood like the problem with pro bending. I think it's a kind of cool sport, but like, what's the difference between pro bending versus like what Toph was doing when she was doing those secret wrestling matches, with like the WWE type earthbending matches? I don't see any difference between the two.
And it's one of those between like football and wrestling.
I think especially this episode reveals that like all the highly specific rules, like not being able to hose for a certain amount of time, or I forget what some icing. I feel like there's even one more rule. Was it headshots I'm thinking of?
Yeah,
headshots. And then the different layers. I've complained to Chris before. I think the different layers, instead of sort of leveling out the competition, it's more conducive to like getting things over. Like if you get an early advantage is extremely important in this sport, way more than like in any other sport you could possibly name. And I don't like that. I like sports where there's more of like a rubber banding effect to maintain some parity.
Okay.
But that's just a personal preference. And like I said, I haven't thought of anything better, so I can't point fingers. That's the important.
Did you guys talk about airbending? Like let's say an airbender were to join, rules built into pro bending with an airbender. I feel like that would be extremely unfair, in my opinion.
Yeah, we mentioned it briefly last week, and I think it was last week.
I think that airbending holds the best potential for like a really entertaining, like sort of a modern, real world ball sport, like a basketball but airbending. Like really high up basketball hoops, and you're like you're ground bound or something like that, and just something like
I
I
think
feel
you
like
just want
airbending has
Quidditch,
the best
Sean. And
potential.
Quidditch sucks.
What's that? No,
I
I
think you
hate
just want
Quidditch. We
Quidditch,
already
and Quidditch
established
sucks.
this. If pro bending is here, Quidditch is on a different table on the floor over there. I hate Quidditch. It's the worst.
Quidditch is pretty bad. I'm
It's
not
a
gonna lie.
terrible sport. Any sport that ends when the best player on one team does the thing that ends the game so that his team can lose mercifully, that's not a good sport.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, Steph Curry, just hit this 50-footer
You hit
and your
this
team
four
wins. And
quarters
he's
so the
like,
game can be over.
sure, I'll just keep trying to hit this no
Yeah.
matter what.
It's stupid. It's terrible. But different complaint for a different day.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I have one more. It kind of progresses in the episode here too. I'm gonna try to push it along. But the main guy from the Wolf Bats, what's his name? I forget.
Oh.
Tano?
Tano. Yeah, Tano.
Just because we're coming off the episode we just came off of, when I think of a professional, and I think of a professional athlete at the top of his game, and he's on the best team, I picture somebody a little more aligned with LeBron. Maybe somebody a little more physically imposing. Not some guy that looks like he may or may not visit Hot Topic a lot. I like Hot Topic. That's not a
Hey,
shot
I
at
love
Hot Topic.
Topic.
But that's where he looks like he came from. And it's not like a professional athlete in my mind. Whatever.
I agree. I totally agree. He's Robert Pattinson from Twilight.
More Robert Pattinson. So the match gets to the point where they feel like they've won because they've knocked all they've done a knockout, as the announcer guy says.
That was good. That was nice.
Yeah, and so they turn around and Korra. All right, again, people underestimate Korra. Korra is a beast. Like, how much does Korra bench?
Yeah.
Like, she's holding the ledge. She's holding Mako enough to like throw him over it, and then Mako gets back on and saves the match.
Yeah, it's insane. It's ridiculous.
Like, I love how just physically strong Korra is.
And they gave it some legit momentum and everything. They didn't like OP her. It's not like she just threw him up there and then crawled up herself. Like, good physics behind it. It looked like, to me, I'm not a physicist, but it looked satisfying.
Yeah. I mean, this is what you get when you spent 17 years of your life just training every single day. And then your dad is also like this beast of a man. Like, yeah, so.
And that's why Korra is LeBron.
Yes, exactly. Going back to last week. Yes, exactly.
So that ends match 1 with the Mako getting the knockout. And then match 2, we're getting similar cheap tactics, but they do, Fire Ferrets do fight back, and it ends in a draw at the end of time limit. Is that correct?
Yes. So then it's a face-off or whatever it's called, and Korra takes this one, which, again, people talk about Korra as if she's just like really headstrong and can't think through fights. Korra has not only been trained physically and everything, but she's been trained fighter. If you see her match against her firebending trainers, you can see she's thinking, right? Like, there's one person who comes up in the air and she trips him, and then she throws like a jab really at him just to get him off guard, and she fully warms at him. Korra does the same thing here in this match. She throws a jab, gets the guy off guard, and then throws a kick. Like, that's a boxer move, right?
Yeah.
You're setting yourself up.
Yep.
I love that they gave us 2 angles of it too. They showed it happen and then they stepped it back, and so you can see the full kick again from the side. I thought that was kind of a neat animation.
Oh yeah, that was
tactic.
great.
I love how she didn't exert like any energy on that as well. Like, it was just like boom, boom, done. All right, let's keep moving.
I feel like they were going for the crane kick, like in bending form. That was my takeaway.
Yeah.
So most satisfying part of the entire episode, probably right there. She beats Robert Pattinson off of that little bridge. And then in match 3, we are treated to more cheating tactics. Everybody's upset at this point. The announcer's going crazy. He's like straight up making fun of the ref. Only one ref, by the way. Tough gig.
So I had a question about that. I wrote down, as I was watching the episode, I was writing this down. I was like, oh, there seems to be only one ref. Like, so that kind of, like, what the heck are the rules? Like, we should probably have more than one ref for this sport. But there's actually a couple times in the announcer does say refs plural, and then there's a super short shot where there's 3 referees huddled together, like in a.
Oh, okay.
I did not catch that. That's a great catch.
Yeah. It's so there are apparently 3 refs in pro bending, in case people are wondering, but we only see the one talk.
That's good because there's a lot going on there. There's no way that one guy would be able to see all that.
No.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and one of the rules, like the third round, they're just completely just throwing away the rule book at this point. Like you can only use, like Earthbenders can only use the disc within their own zone, but like they're using their own disc. There's one really terrible move. This is what they got the knockout with. Tano like turns his back, does water, and the guy puts rocks. He breaks up the disc, puts rocks in there, and then Tano throws the water at like Korra, and you can see the rocks just knock her out. It's great animation. But another addition to kind of the rules there.
I know I'm thinking not thinking about the right stuff here, but my first thought process was as soon as Tano starts to throw that, those rocks are just gonna fall out of there. He's not bending he can't hold those, and that's outrageous. Maybe he can. Maybe he can.
That's a good. I never thought about that.
He probably can bend with enough force. I don't know how it works. I just if I try to do that, the rocks would just fall out and I would just look stupid.
Right. Well, one thing, speaking of overthinking stuff, I was watching the match and their masks, their helmets are really cool, but I hope there's a ventilator system or something like that, because otherwise you're just gonna breathe and the whole mask is glass or whatever. And I mean,
like Andy Reid.
You're just gonna fog up. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. I never thought about that before.
I live in a suburb of Kansas City, and Chris isn't too far away, so that's been a huge. Yeah. I shared one the other day that was you see these faces on game day, you know you're in trouble, and one was Kobe biting the jersey, one was the playoff LeBron face, and then one was Andy Reid with the fogged up face mask.
That's funny.
So third match does not go well, needless to say.
They get knocked out.
Or third round or third
round. Third round. Yeah, it's in rounds.
The match.
Yes.
And they all get knocked out.
I would like to add more matches. I think 3 matches would be good, especially for a championship.
There better be more games. If you go to the Pro Bending Arena just to watch 15 minutes worth of 3 rounds.
Yeah, it's really short. Yeah.
What do the tickets cost for that stuff? It's a tough economy out there.
So the match ends in knockout. The game ends and everything. And they're declared the winners. And then out of nowhere, which this part was so freaking cold. I thought it was so cool. The way that the equalists just started coming up, just from the crowds, taking out.
I loved it, man, watching them do their whole
Yeah, the whole thing. I really need to make a meme about wearing masks and doing that.
That's awesome.
And then Tenzin can kind of sense it happening, which brings more. I have a slight theory that airbenders have some semblance of precognition, just because they can kind of feel the changes in the atmosphere, which Tenzin senses it before Lin does, which is actually really cool because Lin has
seismic sense.
And she didn't feel it coming, so he was first to see it.
Yeah, there's a discussion with that seismic sense thing, because I know there was an issue with that fans had with Lin. The first 2 seasons, whenever she does seismic sense, she metal bends her shoe or her boot out of the way, and then she's barefoot to do it. But then there's this one specific scene, later in Korra, where she does it and she still has her shoe on. And
yeah,
she's either getting better or she's getting lazy. One of the two.
Maybe because she uses it in the next episode, and maybe she can use it better with bare feet because she's looking for tunnels and everything. Right. So that's the only thing I can kind of.
Oh yeah, that is right away next time, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. And to me, I was thinking if she does it if she does it with her boot on, to me it just means she's just doing it better and she's hyper focused to get through that, right?
Yeah. All the times people look when people talk about Korra versus Aang fight, they're like, well, Aang knows the seismic sense. I'm like, well, that's not a complete see all things because
Mhm.
Toph that didn't necessarily make Toph indestructible because Toph got like all of Royal Rumble people, like those 6 guys, including the big old hippo carrying 2 big old things,
Mhm.
got to jump on Toph, and then when they kidnapped her, so it's not like an end all.
Yeah.
And
No,
those are
it's
all
pretty
not.
kind of
heavy dudes we're
yeah.
talking about there.
Yep. Yep.
She should have sensed them like immediately when they stepped
Pretty
within 100
soon.
yards of her.
So,
Mhm.
but as Lynn does it, it suggests that there's kind of an air of focus required when she does
Yeah.
her stomp and loses
Right.
the metal shoe.
Right.
Yeah.
So to me, this episode takes a really awesome turn once the masks start to come on. I instantly felt the same way I felt the very first time I watched it. Is I'm sucked into the episode from here on, and everything that happens from then on. But one thing that I took note of, just kind of a goofy thing. There's the the montage of everyone putting on masks and all that, and this one guy reaches into his popcorn, and I've thought for years, wouldn't the glove be full of popcorn?
Be
Like,
kind of gross and buttery and stuff. Are you some freak who doesn't put any butter on your
because
popcorn?
he
What the
puts
hell?
his
I'm
puts
just
his
kidding. I'm
hand
just kidding.
in and pulls out the glove. Like, he doesn't grab the glove and then dump out the popcorn. His hand goes in and comes out with the glove. I was just, yeah.
Maybe, well,
Some
he put the
side
glove in.
story.
He put the glove in. No, you're right. I got nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some side story there where he goes back like, hey guys, they're like, why's your glove like buttery? And so
It's all
like,
nasty, man.
long story. I didn't follow
I
didn't
don't.
follow the right instructions.
I don't think it all lines up to all these guys got their gloves and their popcorn. Like, they had to have a lot of inside people and a lot of nobody noticing gloves getting put into popcorn bins. But who knows?
Yeah.
It's a busy place. I'll accept it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so then the lieutenant, which that's only his name, he ends up electrocuting Bolin, Mako, and Korra, and he ties them up. Then and then Bolin gets Pabu to chew through the rope, which I'm gonna say this might be a controversial opinion, but might be a hot take. Pabu is far more helpful than Momo.
Oh, that's no hot. Well, I mean, it could be a hot take, but it's the truth. I'm with you, 100%.
Yeah, that's the truth.
I think it's definitely the truth.
Okay.
It's not to bash Momo. It's a different type of character. But if
Right,
I was
right.
going to pick one
To save the day.
to save my life,
Yeah.
probably going with the ferret.
Yeah. And I love how this episode picks up so much. I love how Korra like gets on the water and she rushes up. One thing is just a great bending done, but then granted, sometimes Korra jumps in and she doesn't think. She just think I gotta go get him on. And she runs out of water essentially, and then she's falling. And I know where Lynn catches her, and it's just so beautifully done. Like the way Lynn uses physics really to catch up. Where Lynn has to like turn the table in a certain way to create enough force to throw Korra back up. And Korra comes back up there and she like fire bends at Amon.
Oh,
Though,
are you?
can we? I don't want to spend too much time on it, but Amon's speech, at least
Oh,
the
my
first,
bad.
at least the first half of the speech is really compelling too. And I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
want to
skipping
butcher or
stuff.
ruin it, but he like,
Oh,
I don't want to try to
Yeah,
quote
yeah.
it. I'll butcher it.
Well,
man, what does he? Go
Something
ahead,
about like Bender's bullying people or whatever, just like you saw with these cheaters here. Or
Yes.
Essentially, he calls out the match of being a hoax because
Yeah,
of
like these are
Bender's.
supposed to be your best benders, and they've bullied their way into winning this competition.
Bunch of
Like just the way
losers.
they've bullied you non-benders out there.
Yeah, the line that really stood out to me was after he takes Robert Pattinson's bending. It drives me crazy because like the voice acting is so good in this line, and he says he cleanses them of their impurity, and just like the way it's said is just so like
It's like going to church or something when he
Yeah.
says it. It's crazy.
yeah, it's
You have
crazy.
been
Like,
cleansed of your like
Yeah.
you
it's
can
so well done.
which in retrospect is interesting because the thing is, Amon, even though he is a bender, he believes fully in his cause. He does believe that bending is the root of all evil. So him as a bender is really interesting when you look at it in retrospect. He really thinks of it as a impurity, which is some great writing there.
Mm-hmm. And also, I didn't really take note of this before, but he states in his speech that he's looking to like cleanse the world of bending, not just Republic City, but it's like the entire planet.
Yeah, it's funny. The first time I watched this, I paid attention because right, Amon's having his speech, and his speech doesn't stop, but it goes then to Korra and them tied up with Pabu biting off the rope. But Amon's speech keeps going, and you just hear him in the background, and he's actually like talking about some really great ideas. He's like, we're going to put in an equal government of everyone having a say. Like, and it's really interesting because it's not. I would have liked that to be in the forefront because I think that really paves the way for what happens later. Yeah, and then the series they do implement a government that's a democracy that's voting on and everything, while everyone's vote is equal. So I think Legend of Korra does a really good job of sometimes using the antagonist's ideas and adopting them by the end. I think really great shows and series and movies, stories do that really well. Like Black Panther, right? Like T'Challa, he learned so much from Killmonger that he's like, oh, no, we do need to share our resources with the world, like the way he was going to do. But he went about it such a wrong way. And Korra villains are very much similar in that aspect.
Yeah.
I don't know where to insert this other than that when I was watching this, and I just watched this one earlier today. I was thinking about I think the animation in Avatar: The Last Airbender is better, but I think the voice acting is better in The Legend of Korra, and probably around this time when he's given the speech or just the general interaction that Team Avatar has, I think the voice acting is I don't want to say significantly better, but very.
They got a lot of great people. They had more villainous characters to get really great voice actors for. They didn't rely on child actors as much.
Right.
So child actors can be great.
That's probably a big help. The animation thing made me think the other way though, because there's some of the shots where it's like really far off, where they like don't animate the characters' faces or anything. It's just like blank faces off in the distance every once in a while.
I think part of that is because, well, Avatar has that too, but I think part of that is because just it's so high def. It was done purposely, and you're seeing very high def, and so you're seeing some things in the background. You're seeing on a bigger screen than they probably intended for.
Absolutely.
And really great high def. So even if it's just like little squiggly lines, you still see squiggly lines in high def.
Right.
Absolutely.
Going back, Chris, to what you were saying about when Korra gets free from the rope from Pabu, and she like does a quick water bending move, and she does this water spout up.
Yeah.
I never really noticed it before, but that water spout is probably bigger than the water spout Aang did in book 1 when he was in the Avatar step. It's like Korra is just so ridiculously physically gifted. It just doesn't make any sense.
Oh, she beats Aang in water easily. Like if you think about,
absolutely,
like she water bends against Kuvira's mech suit, no Avatar state, water bend ice on it, which is Kuvira's mech suit is about 20 stories high, right? Because you can compare that to the skyscrapers near, and you can count the windows. It's at least 20 stories high.
Right.
So she's bending no Avatar state water up about, let's see, that's about 12 feet, 200 feet.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah.
She's a beast.
Korra Brown James.
Exactly. So then they pretty much it's a fight with versus the equalist benders and Korra versus pretty much Lieutenant. And Lena's giving them the business. I love seeing Korra fight the Lieutenant because like she's relying on firebending a lot of the time, and at one point she just backhands him. It's like It's like Korra, the Avatar, the master of all four elements, or at least three at this time, just backhand somebody.
The ultimate disrespect.
That to me,
Yeah.
the most memorable thing for me about this episode is the fight scene on the broken roof of the arena.
Yes.
That entire and Shawn, to your point about the animation, um, to me, I feel like fight scenes in Korra are animated better than they are in Last Airbender. Um, like this fight scene in particular is like the colors are really cool. The
Mm,
just the way that everything is being interplayed. Seeing a non-bender using those electric sticks versus a
yeah.
bender is it's just really cool. And then also the big thing about that fight scene to me is Lynn is a badass. Like she is another level of just yeah, she's awesome.
She fight like she got the anger pent up inside her too.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
Tremendous fair
Oh,
point
and,
too
and
on the animation styles. Someday we'll have to do like some side by side fight scenes just for fun. That'd make a fun
Yeah,
episode.
right.
yeah, I think Korra definitely, without a doubt, has better animation. But one of the things that is much better, which Avatar didn't really try that hard, is the backgrounds. Especially in season one of Korra, for some reason, they focus a lot on the backgrounds.
Mm.
Like like a lot of them, just still shots are really great. Like just the scene of just looking at the arena, like it's so golden and it's painted, it looks so beautiful.
Hmm.
Yeah, animation was done really well, and throughout this episode, I think especially with the electric shocks all throughout the arena, like it was bright, like in my eye. Yeah, and then the lieutenant again who has those Eskrima sticks.
Yeah.
It's like disrespecting his weapons. Like you got shocky sticks. We're not even gonna give those a name.
Shocky sticks.
Shocky sticks. That's all they are.
I always thought that scene where Korra is, as that fight scene is starting to begin, Korra firebends into the blimp, and
Oh,
Mm.
Amon just calmly just,
Yes. Yes.
that's just so
the
cool.
explosion behind
Like
him
wow.
thing. When all his
Yeah,
compadres get like heat
Exactly.
blasted.
And he just looks, it's just, he doesn't, it doesn't phase him one
not at
bit.
all. Yeah.
His they did a really great job pacing, escalating Amon's threat
Hmm.
throughout the show,
Hmm.
throughout the first season, right? Because
Yeah.
first you introduced to him like, oh, well, there's an equalist movement, Amon, and then you're like, oh, this guy can take away bending, and then he just escalates every single episode almost,
Yeah. I
and he
agree.
takes over. He takes over. Like at the end of this episode, it's like, holy crap, Republic City is at war. Like this guy he wants to wipe out bending from the whole entire world.
Yeah. Yeah. My my biggest takeaway as this episode was ending is I'm like writing notes and I'm watching and I'm super engaged in the fight and everything. And then the episode ends and there's this like shot of the arena and the ring is just blasted. And I'm just like, man, this sucks. The ring is
Yeah.
there's no more pro bending. Just completely gone. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So then the fight gets to a point where Korra defeats somebody, but like League of Shadows, Batman, always mind your surroundings. She falls because the glass breaks.
Hmm.
And then Lynn has a really great moment here where she go after Amon. She can keep her word, right? And she's like, no, I gotta go save the Avatar, which is great character development because before she didn't really care about Korra, and now she saves her, which animation's done really well. And again, physics in the Avatar world, like she uses her cables and then she like catapults herself to go catch Korra, and then she catches Korra and she kind of checks to make sure she's all right.
Yeah.
Which one thing I love about Lynn, which I almost feel like doing a whole video essay on Lynn, I don't know if I got enough real stuff to go off of. But she's a really interesting character because I feel like she is grumpy and kind of pissed off with the world, but a heart of gold because the people in her life all left. Her mother
Mm.
left her, didn't treat her, um, the way she wanted to be. Her sister left, didn't treat her the way that Lynn thought she wanted to be treated, felt like she should have been treated. Tenzin loved her. So of course, at this, this middle-aged woman is like, no one is in my life. All I have is my job. and then she meets Korra, and she kind of gives up her job for Korra, in a sense that she could have went after Amon, but she decided to save Korra instead.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah. So then from the episode, I feel like pretty much.
Yeah, they pretty much retreat from the stadium, but then I feel like one more big explosion or like something else in the stadium crumbles or falls apart or something.
Yeah,
Kind of as
something
they're
else
leaving.
happens. Yeah.
There's some more devastation as they are making their exit, but
yeah,
I do think at that point the episode is pretty well over as they're making their escape.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and this is the first time we've seen blimps? No, it's not. Never mind. It's not the first time we've seen blimps. The police force has blimps.
Mm-hmm.
Which you'd think, after the way they crashed and burned at the 100-Year War, everybody'd be like, maybe blimps aren't a good idea.
You get one metal bender.
Those might have been Zeppelins. I'm not sure. I'm not positive. Honestly, I don't know the difference, but I'm sure there is one. Okay. Well, that being said, if you guys are ready to go to the ratings, I certainly am. I think I did Chris's first, and then Theo's, and then we'll wrap up with mine. Chris.
So I gave audiovisual a 9 out of 10. Just some great animation here, whether it's the pro bending fight, but especially after things just take a complete turn. Just the electricity and everything, the shocks, the fight between the Equalists and Korra, them, I gave it a 9. Story, gave it a 9 because I feel like the story-wise stakes continue to rise. And I feel like it was a great. Another Amon just keeps on. His legend keeps rising. I also feel like it was great lens stuff here with Korra. Yeah, memorable. Gave it a 9. This is when, I don't curse often. I'm not even cursing. This is when Ish hits the fan.
Yeah, that's true.
This is when things really start kicking into high gear. Like Legend of Korra Book 1, I think is one of the best paced seasons of all the seasons, and this is when it really just starts to pick up. Maybe Book 3 of Korra. Book 3 of Korra is paced really well. Also,
Book 1 has the benefit of only having to work through the 10 episodes, though, right? That does impact impact pacing.
Yeah.
I don't remember Book 3 well enough to have any comment on that.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't wait till we get to Book 3, Shawn.
I'm excited.
Book 3 is actually my personal favorite season in all Avatar period.
Excellent.
It might be mine. Usually, a lot of times it's just like whatever I've recently watched that I consider great. Honestly, usually it's between Book 3. Usually between Book 3 and Book 1 of Korra. Actually, man, I don't know. It's in Book 3 of ATLA.
Mm-hmm.
But Book 2 is also great. But Book 2 is great more so in like it's a great story, but it's not as rewatchable because you're stuck without ATLA for so long and you're just like, this is sad.
Poor ATLA.
Maybe the second half, like the last 10 episodes or the last 11 episodes of Book 3 Fire would be hard to beat for me, but I know I'm splitting seasons here.
Yeah.
All right, so then my weighted average score, of course, we went to a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, except for I typed it wrong on the screen. But yeah, 9, not 98. What was I typing? I must have been listening to you guys instead of typing. Average of a 98. Theo, you want to take a crack at some ratings?
Yeah. So audio visual, I'm going with a solid 9 on this. I personally everything just really plays in once those masks go up and Amon shows up. To me, just this entire episode just takes off, and it's awesome. The fight scene on top of the arena is just beautiful to look at, and so I'm going with that. That 9 is really good, also because like Shawn keeps bringing up the voice acting in this episode, just from the beginning to the end, is great too. It's just stellar. So going with that. What's the next one? Story. We're going with 7, and that is because I don't really care for the first half. So that just kind of chops it down for me story wise. I think what really propels the story is Amon showing up, and the stakes are seriously raised, and they're raised a lot. But I feel like this particular episode, although it's a good episode, was just biding its time and waiting to get to that moment. So I have like a little bit lower rating for the story at 7. And then memorable, I'm going to 7.5. And like all of it is just because the the second half of it is so good. The first half of it again kind of wanes for me a little bit. So yeah.
Totally fair. And we think, I didn't put it in the calculator, we think that comes out to like a 7.7.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very respectable. We all had kind of similar ideas. I sort of flip flopped mine from Theo's, though. I gave audiovisual at 8.5 for all the reasons we mentioned. But then I actually went a little higher on the story. And I don't know why, but it felt to me, I really liked the progression of the story. It's almost like a I don't know if you want to call it like a red herring or something.
Mm-hmm.
Amon even told me he was gonna do it, and then it's almost like I still had this false sense of security, until it did happen. Like, and he told me he was gonna do it, so I don't know. I like the way that it progressed from me to
Right.
an amazing end, but it definitely is way more interesting in the second half. And then for memorable, I went back to an 8.5. Again, I always remember the end, the last 10 minutes of the episode. Pretty clear up here. First half, not much sticks, but obviously it's a really good episode overall.
Yeah, same here.
That brought me to an 8.7, which, weighting Chris's average and my average out, came out to an 8.9 rounded up. So that is a really strong episode, at least compared to what our typical average scores are. 8.9. Tremendous episode. Episode 6, which is called The Winner Is. And that is Book 1, Heir of Legend of Korra, Chapter 6. And that's it for the ratings. Theo, it's been great to have you as a guest. Do you have any final thoughts from either episode? Anything that you didn't find another place for, and you got to get it out here?
More Bolin. Just Bolin is awesome. I wish the first season gave him a little bit more stuff. This episode could have given him a little bit more stuff. That's kind of my only takeaway from this particular situation. I'm very excited. I don't know. I think Korra in general is just very underrated as a show, as a whole. There's a lot of nuance to Korra that a lot of people tend to overlook, and so yeah, that's kind of my takeaway from it.
Chris, you got final thoughts on this episode or the last one?
No, it's all fun. Thank you for being on, Theo. Glad you asked. Glad we got you on some really timely episodes to coincide with NBA Finals.
Mm-hmm.
Go Lakers.
I am impartial. I just want everybody to have a good time. I'm not a Celtics fan, Theo, but I am a fan of Brad Stevens because I do like good coaches, and I think he's an evil mastermind. So secretly, I was crossing my fingers for that classic Celtics Lakers. Yeah. But hey, that's all right. Had a good run.
Next year.
Yeah. Theo, I agree. It was really great to have you on. It was a tremendous episode idea. Interesting cross section that I'm happy to talk about all day long, as evidenced by the hour 10 runtime that we spent on the first part of the episode. In our defense, we spent 55 minutes on this episode, so we time shared pretty appropriately. We had to. This episode was a really good episode to talk about.
That's true.
So, Theo, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to meet you. Looking forward to having you back sometime if you'll join us again. Chris, as always a pleasure. I let the guests overshadow you sometimes, and that's my bad. I'm sorry. I'll ask you how you're doing in both episodes next time.
No, it's fine. I'm doing fine. I'm always fine.
It's not fine. Most of the time. It's not. It's okay. It's on me. But it's always a pleasure. So that's Chris, the Objective Geek. I'm Shawn Shaler. Our guest today is Theo Brown. We'll put some contact information in the description. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching Avatar: The Last Podcasters. It's been a lot of fun, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, I'll put where you can get this shirt, Kyoshi shirt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely
Awesome.
like that shirt to
Yes.
us and everybody else because it's a tremendous
Absolutely.
shirt.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, all.
See ya.
Okay, we are muted and going through. Oh, like he is your protagonist in your game. That is kind of what it is. Like, instead of a high score, there's just an objective based game where the goal is to keep him asleep.